Coming up on this edition of Second Alarm, we have important safety tips about smoke detectors. Also, if there was a fire in your home, would your family really know what to do? We'll have information on developing a fire escape plan for your home. And Gonzaga students get a first-hand demonstration of the deadly nature of fire. Those stories and much more coming up on this edition of Second Alarm. Hello and welcome to this edition of Second Alarm. A properly working smoke alarm can make the difference between life and death in a fire. Unfortunately, many smoke alarms are installed incorrectly or have missing or dead batteries. Here are some safety tips to make sure that your smoke detector will sound when you need it to.
Whether you're wide awake or fast asleep, a working smoke alarm is constantly scanning the air. It never sleeps. A smoke alarm is the only thing in your home that can alert you and your family to a fire 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's plain and simple. Smoke alarms save lives, but they have to be installed the right way and be working. So what can you do to protect your family? First, make sure you know what type of smoke detector you have in your home. The two types of smoke alarms are ionization and photoelectric. You need both, because they detect differently smoldering or flaming fires, and you never know what type of fire might start.
Most people don't realize that there's just two kinds of smoke detectors. It doesn't matter what they look like on the outside. It doesn't matter whether they are hardwired into the electrical or whether they are just screwed into the ceiling and have batteries operation. The important thing to know is whether that unit is ionization or photoelectric. Both kinds have been on the market since about 1974, and until just the last couple of years, it was determined that it was okay to have one or the other. You'd still get an early enough warning to get out. There's considerable evidence to question that now, and particularly if you have a slow-burning, smoldering kind of fire. For example, people may be very surprised to learn that a cigarette can smolder in a couch, on a carpet, for hours before it actually bursts into flame, all the while generating very large particles of very deadly smoke. And so if people are sleeping during that period of time, they will not wake up to the smell of smoke. That's a misconception. We tend to go into a deeper sleep because there are so many chemicals and poisonous gases that are in the items that are being burned. So it's really important to make sure that you have that protection from a smoldering fire as well.
The Spokane Fire Department recommends every home have both ionization and photoelectric smoke alarms or dual sensor smoke alarms, which contain both ionization and photoelectric smoke sensors.
The way to find out what you have, if it's already installed, is to just unscrew it from the back and look on the labeling on the back. It should say in tiny, usually in tiny letters, whether it is ionization, photoelectric, or whether it's a combined photo-ion that has both of those technologies in it.
Smoke alarms should be installed and maintained both inside and outside of sleeping areas and on every level of your home. Be sure to follow the manufacturer's installation instructions carefully. If you're installing hardwired smoke alarms, have a qualified electrician do the installation. The 9-volt batteries that power smoke alarms should be replaced at least once a year. It's a good idea to change your batteries when you change your clocks for daylight savings in the fall. Long-life lithium will power the smoke alarm for about 8 to 10 years. Once the battery is dead, the entire smoke alarm unit, battery included, needs to be replaced. Smoke detectors don't last forever. Be sure to test your smoke alarm every month and replace the entire unit every 8 to 10 years.
The reason for that is that smoke detectors have a failure rate of 3% per year. After 10 years, you've got a 30% failure rate right off the get-go. So that's too high of a risk to take. So it's really important to replace your smoke detector at that time.
It takes just a few minutes of maintenance for years of protection. Remember, install, inspect, protect. Smoke alarms save lives.
A properly installed smoke detector will alert you to a fire in your house. But would you know what to do if it went off in the middle of the night? Having a home fire escape plan and practicing it regularly with your family can make the difference between life and death when seconds really count.
If a fire happens in your home, remember, time is the biggest enemy, and every second counts. In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can get completely out of control and turn into a major fire. It only takes minutes for a house to fill with thick black smoke and become engulfed in flames. The Spokane Fire Department believes that having a sound escape plan will greatly reduce fire deaths and protect you and your family's safety if a fire occurs. Practice escape plans every month. The best plans have 2 ways to get out of each room. If the primary way is blocked by fire or smoke, you will need a second way out. A secondary route might be a window onto an adjacent roof or a collapsible ladder evaluated by a nationally recognized laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories for escape from upper story windows. Make sure that windows are not stuck, screens can be taken out quickly, and that security bars can be properly opened. Also, practice feeling your way out of the house in the dark or with your eyes closed. Security bars may help to keep your family safe from intruders, but they can also trap you in a deadly fire. Windows and doors with security bars must have quick-release devices to allow them to be opened immediately in an emergency. Make sure everyone in the family understands and practices how to properly operate and open locked or barred doors and windows. When a fire occurs, do not waste any time saving property. Take the safest exit route, but if you must escape through smoke, remember to crawl low, under the smoke, and keep your mouth covered. The smoke contains toxic gases, which can disorient you or at worst overcome you. When you come to a closed door, use the back of your hand to feel the top of the door, the doorknob, and the crack between the door and the door frame to make sure that fire is not on the other side. If it feels hot, use your secondary escape route. Even if the door feels cool, open it carefully. Brace your shoulder against the door and open it slowly. If heat and smoke come in, slam the door and make sure it is securely closed, then use your alternate escape route. Designate a meeting location away from the home, but not necessarily across the street. For example, meet under a specific tree, or at the end of the driveway or front sidewalk to make sure everyone has gotten out safely and no one will be hurt looking for someone who is already safe. Designate one person to go to a neighbor's home to phone the fire department. Remember to escape first, then notify the fire department by calling 911. Never go back into a burning building for any reason. Teach children not to hide from firefighters. If someone is missing, tell the firefighters. They are equipped to perform rescues safely. Finally, having working smoke alarms installed on every level of your home dramatically increases your chances of survival. Smoke alarm batteries need to be tested every month and changed with new ones at least once a year. Also, consider replacing the entire smoke alarm every 10 years, or as the manufacturer guidelines recommend. Remember to practice your home fire escape plan with your family regularly, because in a real fire situation, your life may depend on it.
Working smoke alarms and home fire escape plans will alert you and help you escape from a fire. A home fire sprinkler system will actually put the fire out often before the fire department even arrives. The Spokane Fire Department's Fire Prevention Division recently held a live fire demonstration for the students at Gonzaga on the importance of fire sprinkler systems.
So I think this you see here is a little bit more typical development. You see the flames that are climbing. The temperature again is about 300 degrees in there now. We'll see if it will continue to progress. Usually it will spread to the nearby combustibles. It will heat up those combustibles to the point where they start igniting.
Darkening down.
You'll see the room is starting to darken down. If you were in a room like this and you were standing up and you took one breath of that air, it would pretty much make you unconscious immediately. And again, that's why the firefighters crawl. We reset the clock for when that kind of started flaming again, so you can see that we're just about a minute into this. The temperatures now are 570 degrees. The smoke detector would have activated in that room now. You just can't hear it out here. You can see the couch now is well involved. The temperatures now are 977 degrees. We just passed 1,000 degrees. You'll very quickly see all of this flash over. It will be a bright, should be a bright fire flashing, and you can see once it actually got started just how quick that room developed and caught and basically was totally consumed. We're only at about a minute and 20. There's flashover right there. Temperatures of 1,500, 1,600 degrees. So the firefighters are going to knock it down. I'll tell you how quickly that cools off. Once they start introducing water, we're down to 1,200 degrees. We're down to 1,000 degrees. We're down to 900 degrees, 800 degrees, 600 degrees. So that's the impact of why we try to get firefighters in a structure as quickly as they can and get water applying, because very, very quickly it can take the temperatures down. Again, the temperature in that area at the start of the test was running at about 70 to 80 degrees. A lot of times, those of us in the fire service say that basically a sprinkler system is like having a firefighter in every room. Statistically, if you look at the fires that have occurred across the United States in sprinkler properties, it's in the high 90% of those fires that are handled with the sprinkler system and never require fire department intervention as it relates to spraying water. The other thing that is sometimes a myth is while smoke detectors are very good for early notification, and we want you to have smoke detectors do nothing for putting out a fire. Sprinkler systems help extinguish the fire. You see how quickly that activated. There was virtually very little fire in that room at all. The temperature did not get much above 100 degrees. And it went off in about 50 seconds from the time the fire was started burning in there. So we'll go ahead and we will shut down the flow to that sprinkler head. We'll just let it flow for a minute to make sure that the fire is out, because we don't. And typically what would happen is once that activates, it would continue to flow water until the fire department's on the scene, make sure the fire is out, and then turns off the sprinkler system. If you look at the damage to the room on the right and how long it would take to recover that room versus the damage on the left and how long it would take to recover that room, you see a significant difference. You don't see near the smoke damage, virtually no smoke or heat damage in the fire sprinkler protected area. Certainly you have some water damage, but again, that water damage is minimal compared to what it would be if a firefighter was operating a hose line at 150 to 200 gallons per minute for any length of time.
The Spokane Fire Department is rolling out 11 new Physio-Control LifePak 15 monitor defibrillators. The selection and purchase of the new defibrillators has been a multi-year process that involved predominantly our paramedics, our physician medical director, Scott Edminster, and personnel from the EMS division. The new equipment replaces 15-year-old monitors that were out of compliance with today's cardiac standards. Emergency Medical Services Captain Kevin McCollum has more on the new monitors and how they will benefit our community.
Well, this is probably one of the best machines that we've had in a while. It replaced our old LifePak 12s. It's called the LifePak 15. And probably the two major components on it that are going to help us in the field is one, it has a non-invasive blood pressure cuff. So we just put it on the patient, and we set it to either 2, 5, 10, or half an hour, and it takes blood pressures for us whenever we want it. We don't have to be in the back of an ambulance bouncing all over the place trying to listen and feel for a blood pressure. It gives it to us. It's perfect. It really helps a lot. The other thing that we have on here, which is really light years ahead from where we've been before, is the Entitle CO2. And what that does, for folks that aren't familiar with what Entitle CO2 is, It's the end metabolism of when oxygen goes into a cell, it metabolizes, and then it comes out the waste product, which is mostly a hydrogen ion, which is carbon dioxide, and that's what's expelled out when we breathe out. And that's what the measurement of CO2 is. And we can tell a lot of physical and pathological problems that are going on with people by these readings. Christy here, what she's showing us is she's breathing normally. And like I was telling you before, 35 to 45 is normal number range that we want to see, and that's right there. And then what these waves represent is when it shoots up and across, that's her expiratory phase, and that's telling us how much carbon dioxide is actually coming out of her lungs, which is a normal amount. So when people are okay and they're not sick, those are the numbers that we look at and are happy with. One other thing I wanted to show you here that we've learned big time is we've always relied on pulse oximetry, which is 99% right here, which that means that 100% oxygen at the tip of her finger, it's there. And oxygen gets in our body and it stays in our body for about 5 or 6 minutes before it gets metabolized out. And so whenever we saw 99% oxygen, we thought, oh, they're okay. Well, what we found out through reading end-tidal CO2 is it happens real time. And so it changes real time. And so we start able to be seeing physiological changes that are happening with someone at that particular moment, and we can take action faster. That's why a person's brain can survive for 4 or 5 minutes, because there's still oxygen metabolizing for that amount of time. And so this, the CO2 detector, is so much more quicker to be able to help somebody out that's in respiratory problems.
Every 2 weeks, a child dies when a television, a piece of furniture, or an appliance falls on him. These incidents are tragic and very preventable. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has safety tips to prevent these needless tragedies.
The last conversation I had with her was, "Good night, Mommy, I love you." 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to the sound of the TV falling. I did not know she was underneath it. So I called her name, "Janiyah, Janiyah, where are you?" And I turned around and I just saw her legs under the TV. You just don't think of televisions or bolting your dressers to the wall. You don't think of those things. They don't tell you to do that when you get out of the hospital with your baby. You need a car seat, but they don't tell you when your child starts walking, make sure your furniture is bolted down.
The majority of furniture tip-over injuries occur in the home to children 5 years and younger. Most devastating injuries that we see to children because of furniture tip-over are injuries to the brain, and also when a child is trapped underneath a heavy piece of furniture and suffocates. And the most important thing for parents to know is that most, if not all, of these injuries are preventable.
I urge parents to include securing TVs, furniture, and appliances in their childproofing efforts. Taking a few moments now to anchor and secure TVs, furniture, and appliances can prevent a tip-over tragedy later.
A television can be a child's best friend, but it can also be a parent's worst enemy.
That's all for this edition of Second Alarm. Be sure to check our website. There you will find links to our Twitter, our YouTube, and our Facebook pages. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to give us a call at area code 509-625-7000 or drop us an email at fire@spokanefire.org. Thanks again for watching, and please stay safe.